everyone? Thanks for joining us again on the Love is for Everyone podcast. Today we're going to be diving a little bit into Jacob's childhood.
Yeah.
And just his life and some struggles as well. So, yeah.
Kind of building off of last episode where we talked about your kind of mental health and just kind of diving into ourselves a little bit more. So,
let's just start off with your childhood. And when
so I've had a pretty, traumatic childhood, I guess is the easiest way to put it.
That's an understatement.
So I guess we'll just start so when I was really little, I pretty much grew up like any other kid, born in Canada, had the typical Canadian family. Hockey was the number one priority. I was on skates by 2. Most of us, I think all of us can pretty much say that.
Pretty close, yeah.
But yeah, and then, right around when I was 6 years old, unfortunately my dad had his first car accident, and he ended up unfortunately becoming, very disabled. He lost I think it was his right arm, and crushing his left leg to a point where he couldn't walk or anything. He pretty much was scooter or wheelchair bound until he caught up with rehab many years later. But so that put a lot of hardship on our family right off the bat. Like I would have been 6, I think, which would have put my sister around 2. So even my sister, that's pretty much all she would have known for a dad. And then, so me, typically, you guys growing up and being able to, go outside, play with your dad, play catch, even that. I was lucky enough, my mom was a very good baseball player, and she kind of subbed in for that in points, but there were a lot of times where my dad, it was just even, me and my dad at home, and I would be outside playing by myself, and my dad would just be stuck up in his room. Because he wasn't able to do anything. But other than yell at me from the window whenever I did something wrong in the backyard.
Break a window.
There's a couple times I've done that.
Throw the ball through the glass.
Yeah. But yeah, from there, so it's a very weird start to just a young person's life, really. So that took a lot of adjustment, and it was really hard to see how hard that was on my parents and their relationship too, because again, my mom at that point, she was working all the time, and she had to come home and do everything. She had to do everything. It was basically at that point a 24/7 job for her. She had to come home, do dishes, come home, take care of 2 kids, and take care of her husband at the same time. I know there were times when I was a kid and my dad would get me to help him out, and I'd have to wash his hair and shit in the sink. And,
Jesus.
Yeah. So yeah, it was definitely a lot different than your, typical childhood.
Definitely a lot different than mine.
I guess, but I don't know, I always found ways to enjoy it. That's kind of where it's just got outside, played. I lost myself in my imagination most of the times, running around playing road hockey, pretending it's the Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals and stuff like that, or just in the basement playing with toys, or you try and lose yourself in things, more or less.
In the moment.
Then try and, yeah.
So it happens a lot more when you're a kid, though.
Yeah, it seemed almost seamless when you're a kid, you didn't even notice it, you were just, you're just playing.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you were in the Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, right? It just happened. Whereas now, you kind of look like a freak at our age anyways.
Oh, no, we were next.
Klein has the puck. He's going right. He's going left.
Man. Me and Matthew Smith, old childhood friend of mine, we used to, you guys know him, and Smitty. But what we used to do, he loved playing road hockey goalie, which is awesome because I fucking hated it. Even though I'm a goalie in hockey, I just the ice sliding around made things easier. So that annoyed me that I couldn't do that in road hockey. But he would always play net and I'd always be out, but we'd literally pretend we're the teams walking onto the ice. We'd run out, run back to the backyard and then pretend to be the other team walking out and shit.
It got full blown.
Oh yeah, we went next level with that. But
awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of
that eased your mind.
Yes, it very much did. From like the very hard, like again, what I said, like it was tough because now, like especially for my mom, she now has 3 people to take care of, and my dad wasn't always the nicest. He was a very loving man. At least I've come to know that in my later ages. But he was a very strict parent, as well as not so much like physically abusive. He would spank you and that kind of sort of
old traditional style.
But it was more of like a verbal abuse. Basically, since he wasn't capable of doing things and you didn't do things the way he wanted them done, you were an idiot. You just were useless, stupid. Like,
it's bad parenting techniques. But
yeah,
it's so common.
There's
even today,
yeah,
of putting down your child and calling them idiots, and like parents do not realize the effect that they have on their kids, man. Like the respect that they show, and they look up to them, and for you to talk trash to them and stuff, it
be something as simple as
and to this day, you're talking about it like right now, 23 years old, and how it changed your life.
Yeah.
For any parents,
Yeah, like an example of that would be basically like I would be, a light would be flickering in the living room or something, and he'd go, "Hey, go grab the light bulb," and of course, me, just quick kid, I look everywhere, and like you don't see it, so you just give up and you go upstairs and say, "I can't find it," and then of course he's like, "Well, I know they're there," but with him being in the condition he was, it was very hard for him to do that. So it was if I have to get up out of this chair, you're gonna get punished for it because I'm not in like a good health to be able to get up and do these things. But again, I'm 8 years old. So
you want your dad.
Yeah.
You want his attention. You want his love, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just want your dad.
Pretty much. And so little things like that, even around the household, where it just like, it just wore on you, and that kind of wore down my self-confidence a lot. I was a very shy kid. I mean, you get to know me and playful, like, I loved coming up with, like, I had Nerf wars in our backyard, everything. Kids would come over, and I'd have amazing things planned to, like, games, whatever. We're gonna do this. Here are the rules. Let's just go at it. Kind of thing. Like, an example of that would be like the 2010 Olympics. We had, during the gold medal game, we had all like most of my hockey team at the time, come to the house and watch the game. And, I found a gold medal, a silver medal, and a bronze medal in my room, just like hanging up. And I was like, okay, we're doing our own like mini stick Olympics. Like we're going ham with this stuff.
That's awesome.
I got like stools for like the podium, and I put like paper and wrote it on it and that. But yeah, like, that was just part of like how I coped with things too. Really.
Yeah. Dive in more about that. Like, I know we had kind of an episode where we talked about you losing your dad and kind of the struggles you went through, but like how'd you cope with the overall kind of depressive state that it would have put you in, or did it like kind of dive into
I didn't really
after what happened? And
yeah, so like there was that point where basically like while he was more or less, he was still alive, but he was disabled. He was it was just more like losing myself in my imagination and just feeding that part of my mind, which really was just an escape. It wasn't really until after he passed that like it really, like, depression really hit, and that where, yeah, I would stay up night after night just crying. Why did God do this to me? Why? Like,
yeah,
why?
Mourning is
why did he choose to do this? Stuff like that. But yeah, and then as time kind of went on, it's weird because like you start to understand where he was at in the time, because like the biggest question was always like, why does he not love me? Does he why, like, how does somebody make that decision to take one's life? And it was very hard to perceive that as a child. And like I remember just learning about things like time travel or stupid like things like that, and basically wanting to that stuff to be as true as it possibly could be, just because like I'd want to be back and thinking like maybe I could help him out at that moment and stuff like that. But
that shit goes deep, man. You already got female clients, man. You got me almost here like, what the hell, man?
I told you. But yeah, like, and just to basically, because of that family situation and me recognizing at a very young age that that's not normal, I always felt like an outcast, always felt like an outsider. I never felt like I'd fit in anywhere at all. And even maybe like people didn't recognize that or didn't even know that about me, but that was always still going through my head all the time. Even it could have been a brand new group of friends, but that's always going through my mind, because eventually they're going to get to know me and eventually they're going to know this. How are they going to react? And kind of when it first happened at school and stuff, there's a lot of people that like pity you, and I've had a weird relationship with pity, because like at some point it's nice to have people's condolences and stuff like that,
acknowledge your pain,
but there's to a point like there are people that I wasn't really friends with in like elementary school that that all of a sudden liked me. Like they just wouldn't like let me hang out with them, and then they finally know, like the popular kids finally noticed you kind of thing, and then a week later it's back to the same old shit. And it's like, well, what the fuck?
You were the flavor of the week, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's kind of how mental health is treated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of why, like, last podcast I talked a little bit about the Bell Let's Talk stuff, and that's kind of why I have, like, a weird feeling about it, just because it's like, okay, we're doing this one day, but we're not actually, like, yeah, we're raising money for it and everything's nice, but we just kind of, we only celebrate it on one day, right? Like, yeah, we don't, like we were saying, like Zach said it perfectly last podcast, where it was like, we need to do this every day, not just one day. Like, it's nice to have that day to raise a ton of money and show that support, but it's got to be a conversation we have all the time.
Yeah, and that's what I find society does with just a lot of different things. Like, there's Black History Month and just other things, or cancer awareness or whatever it may be, that we only emphasize talking about those things at a certain time of year instead of, kind of
always
having that conversation. And yeah, especially with mental health being such a prevalent issue these days, that yeah, it's not something we should just focus on one day of the year. Obviously, we need to be having these discussions on a regular basis if we want to try and change society in an impactful way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so through that, as well as, like, I did get bullied too as a kid. Like, I was always the smallest kid. I've always grown up as the smallest kid. It's kind of why now, as like an adult, sort of, when there is people that's smaller than me, I kind of, like, I scream with excitement inside, because it's like, I'm not the smallest. That's
kind of why I like our friend group, because like, I'm not tall at all. Like, I'm only 5'9", but I'm taller than, I don't know, probably like half of our friends. Like,
right, we don't need to get into our height here, bud.
Yeah, sorry, Zach.
We're not chirping yet.
Oh, you are chirping me.
No, I'm not. I just said I'm kind
We are all taller than him.
Yeah,
that's kind of the point he's getting at here.
Well, I'm the most good looking, so.
Sure.
I had to try.
We still love you.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I'll just be ugly and short. It's alright. I'm still happy, though. That's what matters, guys.
It's a mindset.
It's a mindset. How many times, though, like, not to go completely off track, but how many times do you hear that a day?
It's a mindset?
Yeah.
A lot. A lot. At this point, a lot.
Or how many times are you telling yourself that a day?
Quite a bit.
Yeah. There's so many times where I've been caught in, like, a shitty moment or just, like, a really rough morning, and I just go to myself and I'm like, these 10 seconds here cannot define the rest of your day.
Yeah.
No.
And you have to, like, program your kind of mindset. And
I know it's such a cliche catch yourself in those, like, negative thoughts, sort of.
It's such a cliche thing to say now. Like, I feel like it's almost been overused, but it's such an important thing to be overworked, basically. Overwork that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then there's the other cliche, like, if it's not going to matter 5 years from now, don't spend more than 5 minutes worrying about it, kind of thing.
True. Yeah.
So that's another one as well.
Kind of interesting perspective, for sure. But to be, or to get back more on you and your story.
Yeah. So where was, like elementary school and that, I guess. But yeah, so like, it was always weird, and I wasn't like a popular kid at all in elementary school. Like I said, like I always see myself as an outsider, and because I kind of had this like at home when friends came over kind of organizing games and stuff like that, like I wanted people to have fun when they were around me, kind of. It kind of led into like elementary school and a little bit of controlling attitude, and especially with like the home life I had a lot of pent up anger. So there were times like I was absolutely the take my ball and go home kid. You don't play by my rules, I take the ball, I'll kick it fucking over the fence. I don't give a fuck.
Savage.
You can feel your anger in your tone of voice right now.
Yeah, man. Like there's
like
probably
the past is present. Right now.
There's probably some people that I went to elementary school that like, if that's like all they knew of me, they'd probably think I'm 100% like I kill animals. Like I'm a straight up psychopath. Like I'm a murderer. Like, I would lose it on people. I would try to, like, manipulate kids to beat up other kids because I didn't like them. Yeah, I was straight up psychopath.
Well, old Dexter.
You've come a long way.
But yeah, and yeah, so like that's also been just like knowing that you're capable of that kind of anger and evil, I guess, has also been very enlightening to a degree, and why I've taken such a calm, like you guys would probably agree that I'm a very calm person.
You're stupid calm. Like to the point where I'm like show emotion calm.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't know how you do it. Like I know like next week when we talk about my story and stuff, like I'm gonna have a hard time talking about it, but like I don't know how you just talk about that stuff. So I mean, you have said it a few times, and it's
just gotten it gets easier with time, but
yeah, and you know how many times you say it. Obviously,
yeah,
but I don't know. That's such a deep conversation.
But at the same time, like I had these anger issues, and then from being at home, and then I guess witnessing the like what that can do to a person, what that can like eat them away from the inside. Because my dad had anger issues his whole life. And it's kind of something my mom's always mentioned, was just like maybe he should have done counseling when he was a kid and stuff like that, when it was more looked down upon, like my kid goes to a shrink, I'm a bad parent kind of thing, like that old style of parenting and that. And just to see what he went through really changed my mind as well with what I knew I was doing. And just like basically if I felt anger, I just let it out. I didn't hold on to it, whatever. I just expelled it, and then like that was it. After I went on whatever tantrum, did whatever I did, I was fine. I was absolutely good. You let me punch 13 holes in a wall or something like that, and like I'll then give you a hug. But like kind of like the Happy Gilmore thing where he's like at the beginning of Happy Gilmore where he's like an evil kid, he's hitting kids with like a rubber hammer, and then he's like giving them cake. That was kind of like me, I guess. But yeah, and then just having to grow up, knowing all that, and it was at just a really young age to really figure all that out in your own head. It was just,
oh shit,
you matured really quick, and by the time even like
alone, like besides all the other crap that God throws at us, like, or you know that the world throws at us, I shouldn't say God throws it at us, but you know that we have to deal with and go through, man, like that. Oh, it's crazy.
But yeah, so it was always after that too with like depression. I always was able to. It was very easy for me to get stuck and sad for a while. But then again, I continued to find outlets. That was probably like my biggest thing that I found as a kid, and probably my advice to any of you is just finding outlets, finding the one thing that lets you, like Nate with hockey. Hockey was the same thing for me. Yeah. Being in net, it was my sanctuary. It was alone time. It was basically my happy place, just being able to be on the ice. and just do what I did, and to know people enjoyed me for what I did it made me try harder and made me want to pursue hockey.
It was that sense of feeling like you had an identity, though. Mm-hmm. You know, you had finally become somebody that you could be proud of, or that others could view you and be proud of.
Yeah, that's a perfect way of putting it, really. Because
it's a wrong sense. Not to say that you didn't need it, but it's a wrong sense of like fulfilling one's purpose. Right? Is trying to find an identity within an objective or objects or like material beings.
Yeah, and I've come to know that now. That I've come to know that more through college and after like trying to play high levels, like trying to play junior hockey and trying to play rep and constantly being told you're not good enough or you're not working hard enough. So things like that. And that also really wore on me too as a kid, just cause like I had my dad when I was really little kind of saying that a little bit just with like household chores and stuff. And then these people are saying it to me and they don't know me at all. But so like that also was like, it basically hit the same is what it felt like. It would usually after I got cut from a team, it would take me probably a week afterwards just to kind of recoup myself sometimes.
Yeah, you can get stuck in those states of, you know, like beating yourself up, asking those whys and hows and it can really take a toll on your mental health, man.
But
I thought it stopped recording for a second.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Shit, it was giving me anxiety. It stopped at 19 minutes and then it went back to 21 again.
Okay, good. Yeah. So from there, like elementary school, yeah, and then after my dad death, so this would have been about grade 7, like right before grade 7. Well, actually, the weekend before school started.
Jeez.
So like I didn't get to go to school that year until probably roughly a month in. But at that point, that's when I just became like the quiet kid. I always chose to sit at like the back of the room. I just didn't really care to socialize with people much anymore. If people had things to say or said something stupid, I wasn't afraid to basically be savage and tell them off. I wasn't afraid to go up to kids and be like, you're a loser, you're going to end up working at Burger King your entire life. Shit like that.
Yeah,
like,
no filters.
Yeah, basically is I just lost that so I still had that like aggressiveness to me at the time, but I knew it wasn't healthy, so I tried to stay quiet, for my own, well, I thought it was kind of my own health. Like again, you're young, so you don't really know.
Yeah, figuring it out.
Yeah, exactly. But, I just knew always treating people like that wasn't good. So again, I just tried to consciously try to get myself to stop. And by high school, like, yeah, I had lots of friends. People liked me. Like I was still a likable kid. I just maybe act out every once in a while so people knew not to piss me off. But, it's like I was almost too liked, sort of, where I didn't have a group. Like, I can't really say I've ever had, like, I've had good friends here and there, like 1 or 2, 3 people that I can say, like, yeah, I hung out with that guy for years and we had a great friendship, but I never had, like, a group of friends, and probably until you guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are you doing, man? You're just going to throw us under the bus?
Well, I'm getting there. Yeah, I'm still, like, I'm at grade 9 this point here. So, like, yeah, like, I'm starting high school, and most of the people I just know kind of acquaintantly, like through hockey, through sports. So you're just like, it's
kind of chill with everyone.
Like we knew each other, we knew of each other. We didn't.
Yeah, it was more just small talk.
St. Mary's.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's grade 12, man. So even you and I haven't even been that close for that long.
But yeah, like through high school, I just put my sole focus on hockey, pretty much outside of school, because that was the only way to like get my mind off of things. Mm. And then school, I had my parents had standards, like my mom had standards for me to want to do well in school, and they made incentives like paying for grades, like you get an A, you get $10 or something like that. I forget what our family deal was or whatever. I'm pretty sure she did a better deal for my sister than me, which is kind of resentful, but that's whatever.
I kind of felt the same way with my parents, like kind of
They
going a little easier on my sister. Like I think a lot of parents do that with a younger sibling. I don't know if you felt the same way with your brother. Yeah, you're rolling your eyes right now.
Buddy, the older sibling always has to go through the wall so that the
we pave the road.
Can
exactly.
The younger sibling can just walk through it.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so like I started high school in academic, and then like I just changed to apply because like I just wanted to. Like I was a smart kid. I could, if I worked hard at school, I probably could have been pulling like 90s in university if I really applied myself. But I just didn't care. None of the stuff we were learning really interests me unless it was like science, or even like construction or something like that. And so I just chose to do the college route, got my easy 80s and got on a roll every year and just kind of rolled my way through high school. Didn't really like budge anyone, but I didn't really want the same kind of tension I had in like elementary school and stuff like that in high school.
More on a high school note, like what did you really like deal with mentally? Because you're kind of at, like you said, your dad committed suicide in your 7th grade.
Yeah.
And from there, you had your mourning process of, diving into that, probably one of your deepest...
It was more just like the social awkwardness, really. Like, I was a chubby kid a little bit at that point. Like, I wasn't in shape at all. Like, I fell in, like, through my mourning process and that. Like, I ate a lot more. I noticed I just ate like junk food like ridiculous. Like I'd just sit down and fucking get home from school, eat an entire box of Pop-Tarts by myself, kind of thing. And that was like a daily thing for me.
Yeah, that'll definitely catch up to you.
Yeah. Sure. So like I just kind of, I just felt like I was just some like awkward little chubby kid. Didn't really fit in. I wasn't like gonna be like popular with the girls. Like wasn't like this or any like that. So I just tried to like lay low. I didn't really want to antagonize anyone. Like I just
almost draw a sense of attention to yourself.
Yeah, like I didn't really want attention at all.
Not to pick your brain, but did you feel like you were resenting yourself in some way? Like looking back at it now, all that experience and all that quiet.
I wish I did a lot more through high school. Yeah.
In which ways though?
Like, I just feel like unless I was 100%, if it wasn't something I was already doing, I didn't really pursue it. Like, I would have wished to, like, try more sports teams. So I really just stick to, like, hockey or baseball.
Your strengths.
My strengths, really, and then, like, floorball, which was basically hockey. Just, like...
Yeah, I forgot you guys had that at your school.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It's actually a sick sport. I don't know if you guys ever played that in gym class.
I loved it.
It's like...
So basically, the best way to explain floorball is the Europeans tried to make hockey that would be tougher for Canadians to play. It's honestly
still better at it.
We are
like a wiffle ball.
It's a wiffle ball. Yeah,
those weird sticks.
No, but you're not allowed to slash.
Yeah,
there's so many rules.
There's so many rules. It's basically basketball, soccer, and hockey put into one sport. The way the time clock works is more basketball. The rules are soccer, where you can't touch anyone.
Yeah, you basically, like, if you kick or slash.
Like, first practice, when all the hockey guys showed up and, like, we were told we can't slash or, like, lift people's sticks and stuff, we're like...
That's what the stupid rule was.
We're like...
lift people's sticks.
Yeah.
It's like, so how are you supposed to play defense?
That was exactly our question.
You can't hit or lift somebody's stick.
Yeah, we were like, so how do we get the ball? Like, what? But yeah, so it just ends up being like a lot of clashing sticks. Like there's a lot of slashing and stuff, but like nothing blatant like you'd have in hockey, more or less. And yeah, it was fun.
Anyways, back to
the goalie also plays on his knees.
Oh, that's weird.
I didn't know that.
The goalies always play on their knees.
They have to?
Yes. You're allowed to stand up, but like in between like plays and stuff. But if you're stopping the puck or the wiffle ball, you have to be on your knees.
That's weird.
Yeah. So guys, yeah. It was definitely weird getting used to that, but anyways, but stuff like that, like outdoor ed. But that was mostly just because I felt like very socially just outsider, pretty much.
It's almost to me.
I was scared to have like social interaction with people to a degree, because I was kind of scared to get close to people and them to learn my story. I guess at that time would be like the biggest.
I don't know. Just to me, and probably to a few viewers, it sounds like a reflection of someone who once hated the person that you were.
Pretty much.
It's to not have any like confidence in yourself, or to be able to feel like you belonged, or even to feel comfortable saying hello to someone. Like to isolate yourself basically in public is a clear example of, being in that depressive state.
Or it could just be anxiety or something too. Like that's something I realized when I got older. Like I kind of had social anxiety and stuff, and that's
like,
why.
Yeah. It probably could have been a bit of social anxiety. Like it wasn't so much like I was I don't really know. I guess social anxiety could probably be put it, but it was more like I'm just not good enough. Like I was already in my head that like pretty much.
It all starts in our head.
Yeah, like I'd already defeated myself in the head with most of this stuff, and or like even to like what I mentioned a few seconds ago or a minute ago or whatever, but about like outdoor ed, like in my head, like, oh, I'm just gonna be that idiot that fucks shit up, or like I'm gonna tip the canoe, not be able to set up a tent, like do all that. Like I'm not gonna be able to do that stuff.
Yeah. To whoever you were comparing to.
Yeah, I was always comparing, and then that's also something like with hockey is like I got that very comparative mindset. Like I got to be better than the guy next to me. So like I'm always looking over my shoulder. I got to win this race. I got to be a faster skater. I got to stop more pucks. I got to be better than the next
Yeah, but if you were to have a conversation with you now and you 4, 5, 6 years ago, like it'd be completely different. You're not like that at all now.
No. I wouldn't have never been able to have this conversation grade 9 or 10 in high school, like at all.
No.
Maybe not even in
I think you would have, but it would have been hilarious to listen to now. And I feel like in 5 years this might be hilarious to listen to now, just because of how much you're going to grow from this moment forward.
True, yeah.
But what you're saying now is really important, and for your self-growth, for a lot of people that are listening. So just like on that topic of like lack of self-confidence and always constantly comparing yourself, when did you notice the flip or the change in your personality? Or in that
like when I stopped comparing myself?
Yeah, the sense of not giving a fuck what other people thought or thinks about you, like, which a lot of people need to work more on. Mm-hmm. But it is a really difficult thing to do, because we're constantly in...
Well, that was kind of as I started to, like, get closer. Well, I guess I'd probably contribute that to, like, knowing you guys and getting to know your friend group more.
Because, we didn't really... Well... That's kind of how I was in high school a lot. I just didn't really give a shit about a lot of things, and it did definitely serve me in a lot of ways, but that's kind of how, I don't know, Zach and I, when we partied and stuff, is like, we don't care, dude. We're here to have a good time, and however that happens, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly, and just kind of as I, like, started to, like, get to know you two in grade 12 and that, like, it became, like, a social interaction that I enjoyed. Just our mornings chilling in like the front foyer of St. Mary's, just shooting the shit with whoever that would walk by. It was fun. That was like the most social interaction I really had at school.
Like, kind of loosened you up
fun, that or at like lunchtime when we'd sit together and that. But
it's funny though how like, because from grade 9 to grade 11 when I was at a different high school than you, I always felt that connection, with my close friends. I had Nathan, I had Mitch, I had the guys. And then when I went to St. Mary's in grade 12, I had nobody. Mm-hmm. Like, I knew, like, some of the guys on my hockey team or whatever, so I knew them. I knew of them. But again, I was moving from a smaller center in hockey to a bigger center in hockey, so at the same time, I didn't really know them.
Yeah.
So it's funny just looking back at it now and seeing your point of view of how you kind of felt lonely and kind of didn't have that confidence, and then all of a sudden you had that person, and I had that same person, and it's weird, You
were that for each other, basically.
Yeah, it's weird how it kind of connected and how it's still connecting because I'm still learning so much about you that I don't know and how you dealt with things, and it's just it's really cool. Really cool to see where friendships and relationships even can go.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you go from like elementary school. So most of the people in St. Mary's, like I spent most of my life with them in school and shit.
School all the way up.
Yeah, and eventually just they grew into other friend groups and stuff. Just the typical, like, you grow apart. Like, you're not always going to have the same childhood friends that you do. Like, you're still going to recognize those friendships and the memories that you had and stuff like that, but you're not always going to stay in like a tight knit friend group kind of thing. So most of those people that like we just kind of started to dissipate, and like I'd hang out with them here and there, and that's kind of who I'd like. Just I basically was just like jumping around table to table, like the lunch, like trying to find somebody remotely that I knew that I could sit down and not feel like completely alone in the lunchroom, and stuff like that. But yeah, that's where like hockey and that, and just putting like all my focus on that outside of school, and not really getting to the point of not caring what people thought like of me socially. And that it came too with like the maturity, like that excelled maturity of like, none of this shit matters in high school. Like, no one's gonna care you were a popular person in high school in 10, 15 years.
Oh, but it's funny how many workplaces and
copy it, essentially.
Just things,
places, same dynamic.
Places you go, people that you meet are still in that kind of mindset. And it's actually really surprising. How many people still live with that same mindset, that they still run the world because
they were top shit.
whatever reasons, right? Like that their ego has clearly put them over the top. Yeah. I'm actually reading a really good book that you gave me. Ego is My Enemy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's taught me so many things about
it's a good book.
Just like giving myself a punch in the face. Why were you such a cocky douche in high school? Like, you know?
Yeah, because that guy wasn't he a talent scout or something in Hollywood? I believe that's where his story comes from, like Ryan Holiday.
I'd have to look. I don't know if that was at the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
I clearly fucking missed that.
It might have been in like the introduction part. So like I could agree if you didn't read that. I skip those sometimes too.
Yeah.
It was probably like the first like 3 lines, but I remember like that's where he started, and he grew like this big ego, and then now he's became like this stoic kind of philosopher kind of guy, and I guess that's why he wrote that book.
Popularity, it does that to you. You know, the attention. The idea of attention will boost your ego, and that's something that we all really need to be consciously aware of, not to let it affect how we judge others or how we think of ourselves, because, you know, there are people that have never met us, and you'll meet randomly out of the blue, and they'll think you're completely opposite of what you're thinking about yourself, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
And we just have to be prepared for that, you know? So it's not good, and that's where a lot of people get, I think, shook. When somebody compliments them or even, you know, says hello to them in the streets, it's because we've kind of disconnected from, you know, society. We're all so compacted on, you know, Instagram or whatever, that we forget that human interaction. So when somebody's like, "Hey, you're gorgeous. Like, you look absolutely stunning today," you know, you almost take it like it's offenseful.
Yeah, like you like a deer. Yeah. You almost have like the deer in the headlight moment. You're like, wait, what did you just say to me?
This person's being nice to
me?
Yeah. But I think we need to normalize that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like, complimenting strangers for sure.
Or compliment the people you love too. I feel like that's even a gone thing in today's society, man. We're so caught up in this perfect, pitch perfect, you know, image of what a relationship is supposed to look like on like social media.
And the relationship goals or
like,
whatever.
Those relationship goals or whatever. And I think we've lost what truly matters. And is that like, are they making a difference in my life? Are they making me better? Can I find a higher, you know, soul purpose with this person? And I think that's what changed my mindset with the whole friendship thing. Of not having that popular outlook, you know, because
not just how many friends.
Any of us can say we were very popular in high school.
Yeah,
but I think that ultimately did us pretty well, because now we can look back at it and be like,
yeah, it's sort of looking at it like not how many friends you have, but the quality of friends you have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I can say that I know you guys pretty damn well, whereas someone maybe with 20, 25 friends, they might know their middle name, you know, like, it's just the information and the quality of information that you get from somebody by, like, genuinely being there for them. You'd be surprised at how it can change your life for the better.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that's something I kind of do now is like, I'm so used to being like around you guys or people that I know really well that like at this point, I'm not afraid to just open up to people. And I feel like sometimes I open up too quick to people. It's just like,
I have that problem sometimes.
Yeah.
Too. Like, I don't really have.
It's like this guy does not give two fuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not even, or just.
Well, like at the moving company, like you're spending the whole day with these guys and sometimes multiple days and you're just walking in and out of the house. So you just start shooting shit like, oh, what did you do in high school? Or my friends did this dumb stuff. And then you just go on to rants or stuff like this. And like one kid we connected because both our parents, like we kind of had like a little bond going on in the workplace because both our parents died. And it was like, oh. The first day we met, that was how we introduced each other to each other. We're like, oh, okay.
Hi, my parents dead. Hi, mine
pretty much.
I wanted to ask you, but I know we're kind of getting a little bit later into this episode, but I
figured this would be a little longer.
Yeah, but I do want to ask you about kind of when you started therapy, why you kind of started therapy, or like what age did you start kind of realizing that therapy was the option for you, or was it the option for you? Like, did you take alternative ways of, you know, recovering?
So I've done both. I've taken, more recently I've taken very alternative methods.
Yeah.
Like meditation and other things where I'm really just trying to dive into my inner self, more my own self, and really trying to find that conscious awareness of, what I need to heal and, and make that growth happen in my own life. But when I was really little and my dad passed, I did do like childhood counseling. So it was more of just like to help with the mourning process of missing him and stuff like that. And that's really all I remember. Most of like the conversations I'd have at that age. And then it wasn't until college that I deemed like I needed, like I reached. I'm the type of person to put it like we would have like tap matches as a kid in my basement and stuff like that. And I would never tap. Basically you'd have to make me pass out to tap. And I was the same way with my own mind sort of until like I reached that point where like I couldn't even bear my own inner thoughts that like I knew I needed help. And it was just like as soon as I got into that office, I just bawled my eyes out to the person.
And that's so common, man, to hold everything in until like
you hit rock bottom.
And then you basically like I either have to spend time with someone that's gonna help me or
yeah. And I was kind of like forced into it. Like I was trying to like still pursue sports at a business standpoint at this time, going to sport management at Niagara there, and it was actually I fucking hated the guy kind of a little at the time because he made us, it was my communications teacher at the time, or professor I guess, and he made us write an introduction, or he'd made us do a paragraph. He's a very, thinking back now, he's probably been like the most impactful probably professor I had, but he also went through like an insane loss, losing his wife to cancer, and that. So he wanted to get to know us more and more of like that more
what
intimate side.
What did he make you do?
It was an essay, or like it was a presentation. So basically, we had a partner. So say me and you partnered up, and we basically had to say our story that changed our lives forever.
Oh, okay.
Which basically, like, I'm sitting there going,
my dad.
Yeah, like I immediately in my head I go, my dad, and I'm sitting there going, I got to tell this to another person that knows me not at all, like doesn't know me at all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, is there another story, like one other story that I could tell? And I start thinking things like go back to my dorm room and I think about it longer, and it's like, no, I just gotta like, there's nothing else that I can say that like I'm gonna feel weird not saying that. To the point where, yeah, I got partnered up with like some random girl, and I started crying like in front of her because I still wasn't like 100% confident. So I felt really awkward.
Open up your life.
Yeah, I felt really awkward. Like I gave her like a complete like disclaimer warning. Like, hey, like this is gonna be like hard, and like I tried to like I felt terrible because like
what'd she say? I'm curious about what she said to you.
I don't know. She never really said much. She just kind of
she just like out your heart, and she was
she just like wrote down notes and shit, and I'm just like
cold.
Yeah, like
basically any guy on a date.
This is the same chick who came up to me one day. Well, this was before we did this, but she was like, I don't know if she did like me, but like I wasn't just tall enough for her. But she basically told me, I could never date you because I like to wear heels. I was like, oh, thanks. So like I had that going through my head too, and like just a very judging thing. So I was a mess for that. But anyways, getting back kind of on topic with that, I just basically from now the way I see it is it pushed me to talk about it. It was something I was very afraid of before that, but it just pushed me to talk about it. And basically at that point, I couldn't, I ended up having to present my own. She wasn't comfortable presenting it. So I presented my own thing, and like I was crying in front of the whole fucking class. It was like 80 people or some shit.
So you hated your prof, but you'd say he was probably the one guy that was like,
yeah, in the moment I hated.
You helped me.
Yeah, in the
so
moment
much.
I hated that. Like I was kind of forced to have to do that, but in time I realized what that had given me. I guess.
Yeah, no one likes being forced to be vulnerable.
Yeah,
not comfortable really, and that would be really awkward. Being that vulnerable to someone you've never even really talked to before.
Man. No one.
And it's not like a therapist, someone that's equipped to help you deal with that,
or to keep it a secret. Like there's no legal binding act, like where you tell your friends, hey, don't tell me or don't tell anyone else.
Yeah,
that's what gossip is. That's
exactly
what rumors are. Exactly. Like that's what life outside of the therapy.
So immediately, kind of like I immediately just got thrown back into like my like that sort of elementary school, high school, like I'm an outsider mentality again too. And it just like, again, like I just completely isolated myself. I would spend days alone in my room. I'd still go to classes. That's the only time people would see me. And that's kind of where I really started to see who my friends were and how people really act, and really started to like see through people. Because there were people that I thought were close to me at that time. Like there was a couple other people that like, I was getting to the point with school and the stress that I would ask them like, hey man, can you like talk for a minute or something? And they'd come up to my room, we'd hash out a conversation. It'd feel good after the conversation, but like then the person would give me the cold shoulder like for like a week. And it's like, what the fuck? Dude, we both just like, you opened up about your stresses to me, like I was very responsive and a listener and tried to help you at the same time, and now you're just gonna like shut me out again. And then
that's part of putting yourself out there though, like you're gonna get those people.
But that's
that
where
are
I
gonna
kind of started to like choose my own friends. Like I knew who my friends were at that point. I knew like I missed you guys a ton at that point. And like I just knew that those weren't the people I wanted to be around.
And that's one of the hardest things in life that I think we have to do as adults is separate from the people that are no longer good for us. It's different when you've just met them, you've known them for a week or whatever, but it changes you and it changes your personality or who you are, who you associate yourself with. All of that changes when you go, I'm no longer friends with this person.
Yeah.
And I think looking at it like from that conscious point of view, it's kind of like a holy shit statement, but really it's life, like people will come in and out of your life and they will serve the purpose that they need to serve. But there are people that are supposed to stand around for a little while and help you grow, and mentors are a big one, but I think lifelong friends, that whether you stay close to them at the end of it or not, I think they're very important for or vital, man, like for us.
Absolutely. Like I can just, where was I going with that? Fuck, I lost my train of thought.
It's alright, man. I do this all the time. I cut you off and then I'm like,
but
blah, 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 blah.
No, so, yeah, like, it was just so weird because I had the mentality going in, like, yeah, we hung out at the end of high school, and my thing is, like, I wanted to meet more people like you guys. Like, you guys were, like, the first type of people I met like you, that really, like, you guys just brought me into your friend group and were like, hey, let's party with us. Like, just come party with us. It's
not easy to find genuine people.
No,
honestly.
but you guys were very genuine. And,
but
so I wanted to.
Being a genuine person, not to interrupt, but being a genuine person, you typically have a good bullshit detector.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
And you can read fake people in the room.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Instantly. And that's one reason why that I don't even bother trying to get close to people is like, I don't even have to talk to people a lot of times to know whether I even want to talk to them.
Oh, yeah, you can just see the way they look at this point.
You shouldn't close your mindset off to that, Nate. Like, I think.
No, it's just what I feel, though. Like,
yeah,
I don't need to talk to them. Like, I can tell you're a fake motherfucker just by how you're interacting with other people. It's not hard for me. I've always had a great bullshit detector my whole life. So just like, yeah, if I know that someone's not going to serve
people that chance. I know.
I've done that a lot of times though, and it's ended up in disappointment most times.
Yeah,
so I
most
just
times it will.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, that's why I just stick with my genuine people that I know I can trust. Basically.
Make people earn it, I guess. Yeah. It's kind of the way he's going at, I guess.
Yeah. That's really interesting perspective.
But yeah, just being able to see through people was the biggest thing I learned through college and really affected my mental health because the point I was trying to get across before that little kind of side moment was just I went in with the fact that I was missing you guys and I'd found genuine friends and the idea of if you're going to do something you love, you're going to find people that you love to do it with. So like again, hockey. So like I was hoping that I'd meet those guys that I'd want to, maybe we'd keep in contact or kind of push each other to be like top level scouts or GMs or whatever in the sports world. And so like I went into it with a very wanting to be friends with kind of everyone thing. So I was very, yeah, like
you were going to change how high school was and make
kind of, yeah, sort of. And yeah, it backfired pretty darn fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I dropped out after the first year. And then I felt the same thing. I had a group of people I was working with outside of school to do sports, and it felt like it wasn't really going anywhere, and that not everyone was focused on the same goal. Like it seemed like there was like a small, like there was about there was 4 of us that, like my old goalie coach and that, we were trying to do scouting and stuff, but he seemed more off into his own thing, trying to build his business and his connections, and kind of left us behind, the rest of us. And it just, it at that point in time, it really pushed me the wrong way, and like it didn't sit well. So that's when I had to pursue scouting myself, and I got involved in was ISS hockey, and they just basically screwed me over the entire time. There was like a mentorship program. Never got a mentor for the 3 months that I was there with them, and going to hockey games pretty much every day and putting in reports, never hearing a word. So it just seemed kind of like a faded.
I can get frustrated.
It ended up like that summer. It just seemed like a faded thing. That was also the same summer I went to Thailand, and I talked a little bit about that on our Faith and Beliefs podcast about my experience in Thailand. And that, so like I had a lot of revelations that summer, and it was just a huge, huge turning point. And that's kind of where my, I guess, spiritual awakening comes from, and that trying to do more, I guess, natural healing through meditations and more of like that.
Where you're at now.
Yeah. And pretty much that's where it's led up to me at this point. And just being comfortable with, not being comfortable, and really just understanding I'm not any one thing. Nobody's just one dimensional. Everyone has many different things to them, and that's been one of the things too now, is just pursuing creativity at more than just through hockey and all different aspects, through music, through basically whatever.
Yeah, you're a really avid hiker, and I know that you like to spend a lot of time outdoors, and so you've used your resources very well during this like whole pandemic, and
that was something that's helped me that's pretty much what's helped me get through that. And luckily enough, like I've had a family like we've been pretty close like the whole pandemic and that, and we were never really got at each other's throats or anything, and we were all just kind of, it just still felt sort of normal. But it never, other than maybe not being able to go to work or go to the stores, like it still felt like that normal kind of life to a degree. So,
well, before we close out, I have one more question. And that is, if you, knowing all that you know now, and if you were to go back to that 7th grader, what advice would you give? And what advice would you give people listening now that are going through similar things? Because I know that as terrible as it is, teen suicide rates have never been higher. I know that suicide rates in general have never been higher. So just advice, just drill them with some hard advice that you'd give your younger self.
Never give up, man. No matter how dark things may seem, it has seemed hopeless at points, and just never give up, because that moment that you give up, that's the moment you do something you can't take back. And don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to talk.
Amen.
Going back to that professor story, that's just what really taught me to kind of speak to people. And that's kind of when I like started to come back, and I've spoke a lot more with you and Nate. We've started to talk a lot more about stuff, and just being able to have those conversations. And I know even from this podcast a little bit, like I've been able to open up with my mom a little bit more about stuff, and she's finding out things too. As
behind the scenes.
Yeah, kind of behind the scenes as we go, and she seems to be really responsive with it, and it's really nice. And, but yeah, just never give up. Like there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always something that, you never know what can happen in life. At those points, you're too young to really let those deem your life and completely judge yourself by that. You still have so much further to go. And even at that point, we can sit here all like we're 22, 23, and we're just starting out. And
that's so true, man. We're just at the beginning of, I think, our full potential, which is really cool, because I think we've come a long way, even since last year when we just started this.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys so much for tuning in again.
Thank you for listening.
Just before we close out, do you want to say anything to them? It's your episode.
Well, no, nothing more than the usual close up. Just, again, we're still working on getting our website up. We'll hopefully be, maybe next week or the week after, we'll be close to getting that done. And, just go follow us on our social medias. Love is for everyone 2021. Instagram, TikTok. We're on YouTube. You can find our podcast on YouTube as well. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the main ones, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's in our link tree in our Instagram.
Other than that, we'd love to hear your stories. I'm always, want to hear, and here to help too. If you need someone to, talk to, I'm always ear to have an open ear. And yeah, reach out to either one of those guys, and I know we didn't do that at the end of Nathan's podcast, but reach out to either Nathan or Jacob. They're really, really interesting guys, and they have a lot of experience with this kind of stuff. And whether they nailed all the points on their podcast or on their kind of interview, they have a lot of knowledge. So, definitely reach out to them. Cheers, guys. Peace.